Hi, my name is Akash, and in this session, I will be talking about the 30 Days of Google Cloud program. So, I'm the facilitator for this program in PES University, and if you have any questions about this program or you're stuck with some step, you can always reach me out for any help. I'll put my contact details at the end of this session for the reference. So, what will I be covering in this session? I'll be going through the 30 Days of Google Cloud program, what it is and what you have to do in this program. I'll also be going through the tracks that are there in this program, and I'll be giving you a small introduction about the cloud. And to complete the session, we'll be completing your first lab on Qwicklabs platform. So let's start by discussing about what is the 30 Days of Google Cloud program all about. So 30 Days of Google Cloud program is for students to learn about the Google Cloud platform practically using hands-on labs. Now, what makes this different from other courses is that here you get to practically learn about the platform in a sandboxed environment, whereas in other courses, you would probably be watching some videos or going through some documentation. Here, it's all practically performed. You get to do the steps on your own and you learn about the Google Cloud platform in a much more practical way. Now, these labs that are provided should be completed on the Google Cloud Skills Boost platform, and that's also called Qwiklabs. I think they've created a new platform called Google Cloud Skills Boost platform, but if you have been using Qwiklabs for this whole program, that the progress over there is also being counted, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, you would be wondering, what do I get on completing the program? When you complete the program, you get some swags, some Qwicklabs badges, which you can put on your profile or resume to show that you know the skills that you have learned. And more importantly, I think you get to learn a new skill, which might be useful in your career later on. So let's talk about the tracks that are available in this program. There are two tracks. The first track is the cloud engineering track. The second track is the data science and machine learning track. Now you would be wondering, do I have to complete at least one of these tracks? Well, of course, to complete this program successfully, you have to complete at least one of these tracks. And of course, you can complete both the tracks as well. If you complete both the tracks, you will get even more amazing swags, which I will be talking about at the end of this session. Let's go over the tracks in a bit more detail. So the track 1, which is the cloud engineering track, goes over various infrastructure components about the Google Cloud platform, such as networks, systems, and application services that you can use to deploy your application on the cloud. So here you will be learning about how you can provision resources, manage your resources, and deploy your application on the Google Cloud platform. Now, the second track, which is the data science and machine learning track, is where you will learn about various data science and machine learning topics on the Google Cloud platform, which are useful in other roles such as marketing and business. Now, each of these tracks have sub quests that you have to complete. So as you can see in the track 1, there are 6 quests, and each of these quests have a bunch of labs that you have to complete to successfully complete the quests. So in the cloud engineering track, as you can see, you have 6 quests that you have to complete. And similarly, in the track 2, which is the data science and machine learning track, here as well, you have to complete 6 tracks. Now notice how the first quest is the same in both of these tracks. That is because this first quest goes over the Google Cloud platform and is a great introduction about the whole platform. Here is where you'll learn about how you can create and manage resources on the cloud. So that is common between both the tracks. You can get the links for all these quests that you have to complete on the event page. So if you go to this page, there is a whole syllabus with all the links to the relevant labs that you have to complete. So we'll be going through this link later on when we do the lab on Qwiklabs. So we'll be going through this later on. Now let's discuss about what is cloud. Now, if you go by the general definition of cloud computing, it goes like this. Cloud computing is the on-demand availability of elastic compute resources that have a broad network access and can be provisioned rapidly without any human intervention. These resources are allocated from a resource pool and users pay only what they use. So you don't have to understand this definition word by word. The general idea about cloud computing is that you have a pool of resources available somewhere in the world, and from that pool you can provision some resource, you can take some resource out, use it for your needs and return it back, and you only pay for the amount of time you have used that resource for. So let's say I provision a resource, I take the resource from that pool for 1 hour and I return it back when my work is done. So I'll only have to pay for the usage for that 1 hour only, and not for the lifetime of that resource. Once I've used it, I stop using it and I return it back to the pool, and someone else can take that resource and use for their needs. And to provision the resource, to get that resource, I don't have to contact any other person for getting the resource. I can click a button to get the resource. I can click another button to destroy the resource. So I'm in complete control of the resources. I can take more and more resources if my needs increase, and I can give back the resources as my needs are completed. Now I like this quote, which goes like this: cloud is about how you do the computing and not where you do the computing, which I think covers the entire cloud computing in a very beautiful way. So here you don't have to think about how the computing is being done. You don't have to think about where your server is located, how it's communicating to the network. To some extent, you don't have to worry about all these things. What you only have to worry about is your application, how users use your application, and whether your application is being serviced to all the users that need it. So in general, that is the philosophy of cloud. Now there are various service models on the cloud, and before I go over service models, I'm sure in our day-to-day world, we find that almost everything today is being provided as a service in some form. If you think of energy, let's say electricity, that is also a service. You don't have to worry about where the electricity is coming from. You only pay for the electricity that you consume monthly, and you only pay for the amount of energy that you have consumed. You don't have to think about where that electricity is coming from. It might be coming from, let's say, a coal power plant or some solar power plant. You don't have to worry about it. You just get the electricity in your house and you use it, and you only pay for the amount of time that you have used the electricity for. Similarly, there's mobility. There are various companies providing ride sharing and pooling services, and here you could consider them as some form of mobility as a service. You don't have to worry about where the cars or the vehicles are coming from. You just have to specify your need. You use the vehicle or the resource, and then you return it back, and you pay only for the amount of time that you have used it for. So almost everything today is somewhat being shifted to this as a service model. Now, cloud computing itself has three major service models. The first one is infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. The second one is platform as a service, or PaaS. And the third one, which is the most common, software as a service, which is also known as SaaS or SaaS. So let's go over each of these service models in a bit more detail. Now, the infrastructure as a service, in this service model, the cloud provides you the CPU, memory, storage, and networking, and you as a user have to manage the operating system, library, database, and software. So in simple terms, think of infrastructure as a service where the cloud gives you a small computer on the cloud, and you can use that computer to install any operating system, any libraries that you want to use, any databases that your app needs, and the softwares that you might be using on that small system that you have been given. Now that system has some CPU, memory, storage, and networking, and the cloud manages all that. You just specify, I need this CPU, this much of memory, this much of storage, and some networking capabilities. Cloud will provision that for you, and then you manage that small system with your own operating system, library, database, software, whatever. An example for infrastructure as a service is Google Compute Engine, and we'll be going over the Google Compute Engine a bit more later on when we are doing our first lab on Qwiklabs. So we'll be discussing more about that later in the session. The next service model is platform as a service. Now in platform as a service, the cloud provides you the CPU, memory, storage, and networking, same as infrastructure as a service. But here, the cloud also handles your operating system, the databases you might need, and some development libraries that you might require. And here, you only have to worry about the code that you want to deploy. So if you have built an application in Python, you just have to provide the code to the cloud, and cloud itself would provision the machine with the CPU, memory, storage, and it will automatically install the appropriate operating system and the other libraries that you might need. And then it deploys the application. You don't have to worry about how it's provisioning, where it's provisioning those resources. You just give it the code and it will manage the entire deployment process for you. An example for the platform as a service is Google App Engine. And the next service model, which is the software as a service, this is the most common service model which we use in our day-to-day life. This is where the cloud provides you a complete software that you can use, and you as a user only have to manage the data in the software and any software settings that the software provides you. So here the user doesn't have to worry about the code, the databases, the operating system, the CPU, all of that is abstracted by the cloud. And what the user gets is a nice software that they can use to complete their task. And an example for SaaS can be Gmail, Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, and many other applications that we use daily. So now let's go over your first lab on Qwiklabs. Before we start the lab, let's first discuss about the Qwiklabs platform itself. Qwiklabs is a platform that provides you an array of self-paced labs covering various topics about the Google Cloud platform. Now each lab in Qwiklabs creates a sandboxed environment for you on the cloud that you can use to practice the concepts that you have learned. And each lab also has a few quizzes that you must complete to test your understanding and complete the lab. Now once you complete these quizzes, your lab will be marked as complete, and that will increase your progress in the 30 days of Google Cloud program as well. So now I think we can get started with doing our first lab on the Qwiklabs platform. Let's go to the event page first. This is where we can find all the labs that we have to complete this program. So I have put this link in the slides. You would also find this link in the description of this video. And on this page, if you scroll down, you would find there's a program syllabus. And here there are the 2 tracks that you have to complete. So in the track 1, as you can see, there are the 6 quests. And if you click on the link, that will take you to the appropriate quest that you have to complete. And this has the list of all the labs that you need to complete. So you can go through each of these links to complete the labs that are required. And yeah, that will complete your progress in this program. So this right now I'm in the create and manage cloud resources quest, which is the first one. And here the first lab, which is a tour of Google Cloud's hands-on labs, it just goes over the Qwiklabs platform and the basic introduction of Google Cloud platform as well. So I'm assuming many of you would have completed this lab, because to get the credits or the monthly subscription for this program, you would have to somewhat do this lab at the start. And this, I think you can do it on your own. What I'll be going through is the second lab, which is creating a virtual machine on the Google Cloud platform. Now, as you can see, this particular lab has 2 options. We can either do this create a virtual machine lab, or we can do the second one, which is compute engine quick start Windows. So we can do either one of them or both to mark our progress for the second lab as complete. Now I'll be doing creating a virtual machine lab right now in this session. So let's open this one. And now over here, we can read about the lab and start doing this lab. So before we start with the lab, let's see the overview for this lab. Now in this lab, we'll be learning about the Google Compute Engine which is an infrastructure as a service provided by GCP. And you can use the Google Compute Engine to run various operating systems such as Linux, Windows, and others. And you can configure your system with thousands of virtual CPUs, define the RAM or the storage that you might need. And once you have created the compute engine, we'll install a web server on the compute engine and sort of say hello world to the entire world using the compute engine. So let's get started. Before we click on the start lab button, let's go over the prerequisites. So it says that you need to have some familiarity with Vim, Emacs, or Nano. But I'll be showing this lab step by step, so I think you would still be able to follow along. So let's go over the setup. Let's see. Right. So when you click on the Start Lab button, what Qwiklabs does is it creates a new account on the Google Cloud platform, and it gives you the credentials to that account over here in a small window. It gives you the username and the password that you have to use to log in into that account. And when you log in into that account, you can go to Google Cloud platform, and there you can start performing the steps that are mentioned in this lab. So let's scroll down. Let's see the other steps that are there. Now I think we're ready to click on the Start Lab button. So let's click on that. And let's check I'm not a robot. Let's complete the captcha. And now it says this lab costs 1 credit. And since we have a valid subscription, we can click on Use Subscription to start the lab. And now the lab has started. It's provisioning the account that we can use. Now this lab takes 40 minutes to complete, and the timer for 40 minutes has been started. If you run out of this time, then you'll have to start the lab again and complete all the steps mentioned in the lab from the start again. Obviously, you can't resume from the point where you had completed all the steps. You'll have to start over. So now we have to click on the Open Google Console button, and it will open the Google account login page in this current window. But I suggest you open it in an incognito window, because when you're using the Google Cloud platform, you might be using the wrong account, which is your current account that you're using for learning, and that might cause some problems. So it's better to open it in an incognito window so that it's isolated from your normal account. So I'm just going to copy this link and go to an incognito window and paste it over there. And now it's asking me for the email. So it's available over here, the username. You can copy it and paste it here. Click next, copy the password and paste the password over here. So that would take us to our new account. Let's click on accept. And now we are taken to the Google Cloud platform. So we can choose the country. We can click on agree to the terms of service and click on agree and continue. Now this is the dashboard for Google Cloud. This is where you can use to manage and provision resources, and we'll be going through this in detail. But before that, let's go over to the lab documentation over here. Let's see what we are supposed to do. Right, so right now we have completed the sign-in process, completed the sign-in, and now we are currently on this step. So if we come back to the dashboard over here, you'll notice that there's a menu button over here, and it shows you your projects that are created on the Google Cloud platform. Now, projects are a logical division of how you define your resources or how you group resources in the Google Cloud platform. Let's say I have a project A which requires some compute resources. I can create a project here and assign the resources to that project. So this project that we can see right now, this Qwicklabs GCP some random number, this is the default project that Qwiklabs has created for us, and this is where we'll be provisioning the resources on the dashboard. So let's click on that. and each project has a project ID associated with it. So you can see there's a project ID in this project info page, and this project ID is unique throughout all the projects that are there on the Google Cloud platform. So it doesn't mean that this is unique only in the current account that I'm using. It's unique across all the projects, whether it's from the account that I'm using right now or it's by some other users. This is some sort of a unique ID that's there, that's assigned to every project in the entire platform, in entire GCP. So that's the project ID. And to navigate the Google Cloud platform, you can click on the navigation menu over here. And this is where you will find all the services or all the various products that the Google Cloud platform offers that you can use. So you can scroll down, you can go through all the services that are there. And if you're looking for anything specific, you can also use the search bar to search for the particular product that you are looking for. So let's go back to the lab, and here let's see what it says. So it says click on the activate Cloud Shell button. Let's activate the Cloud Shell. Let's click on continue, and this will create a Cloud Shell for us. Now Cloud Shell can be thought of as a small computer that is given, which you can use for any sort of development purpose. This environment that has been created, it has many of the popular programming languages and libraries pre-installed. So you can make use of that and use it for small development activities right here. So as you can see, our project ID that we are using. So this is the project ID. The same project ID is mentioned over here. That means the terminal or the Google Cloud Shell is connected with this project right now, and any command that we run here to provision resources or any other thing, that will provision the resources on this project. We can use a command to change the project the shell is connected to, but we are not going to be covering that in this session. So that's the Cloud Shell. Let's run this command. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it here. You can obviously type that out as well. Let's click on authorize. So it says no credentialed accounts. Let's try it again. And these are like the prerequisite steps. So even if it doesn't really work, it's not a problem. The actual lab contents start from the tasks over here. So I think we'll directly jump to that. Right. So before we go to the task one, which is creating a new instance, let's understand the various regions and zones that the Google Cloud Platform offers. So every compute engine that we create on GCP lives in some region or zones that are provided. Now each region is some geographical location from where we can provision the resources, and every region has one or more zones within that region itself. So let's say there are many regions in Google Cloud Platform. Some of them are mentioned here. So we have Western US, Central US, Eastern US. These are some geographical locations. Now within these regions, there are various zones that are there. There's US Central 1A, US Central 1B, which are associated with the Central US region. So these white boxes, these are the zones that are there. So the compute engine that we create will live in a region or a zone that we assign it to. And we'll be seeing that later on as we do the lab. So let's go to the task one, which is creating a new instance from the Cloud Console. So let's do that. We can close the Cloud Shell because we don't need it right now. Let's click on the navigation menu and go to Compute Engine. And we have to click on VM instances, which is the first option. And this is where we'll provision the resources for the compute engine. So I think it has not yet loaded. Yeah, so here it is. Right now we don't have any VM instances created, so this table is empty. Let's click on the create instance button over here. And now we'll be presented with a lot of options to configure the instance that we are creating. So the entire configuration that you have to use are mentioned over here, and make sure that you use the exact configuration mentioned here, because Qwiklabs in the background is tracking your progress. And if you don't use the same name, let's say for your instance, then Qwiklabs will think that you have not completed this lab because it wouldn't find any instance with this name. So make sure you use the exact configuration mentioned in any of the labs for any resource when you are doing the lab. So in this case, it says the name should be gcloud. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it here. The region should be US Central 1. That is the default one. The zone is US Central 1F. So that is also default. And about the region and the zone, as I mentioned, regions are the geographical locations where Google data centers are present. So we can choose among various regions. And the zone is within the region, different divisions of zones that you can use to allocate the resources. So in this case, we'll be using the F zone. Now the machine configuration, this is where you specify the CPU, the memory, all that, and configure the instance. So as you can see, it says the series should be N1 with a machine of 2 virtual CPUs. So let's choose the series as N1. And here the machine type should be N1 standard 2, which has 2 virtual CPUs and 7.5 GB RAM instance. So as you can see, we are supposed to be using this one, N1 standard 2. Now, as you can see, there are many options. There are many other configurations that you can use. If you scroll down, you will see instances with a lot of virtual CPUs, a lot of memory as well. So if you want a really beefy machine, you can use this option to allocate that many resources. Now, even for experimenting, I know that this is a temporary account. If you, let's say just for fun, select a very high configuration and create a VM, Qwiklabs will be alerted and they might block or terminate your account. So don't deviate from the steps that are mentioned. Just follow the steps that are mentioned in the lab, and you should be good. So we should be creating N1 standard 2. So let's click on that. And then the machine type we are done. The boot disk, let's see. I think the default one is fine. So here the boot disk, you can change the operating system that you want to install on the VM that you're creating. And then in the firewall, we want to allow the HTTP traffic. So allowing HTTP traffic would allow us to communicate with the VM over HTTP. And I think we are done. We can click on create. So this will create a virtual machine for us, or a compute engine on GCP. And right now it's creating the resource. We can close this. And while it's creating, let's go through the next steps that we have to perform. So once the resource or the VM has been created, we'll use SSH to log in into that machine. So it's currently creating the instance. Let's wait for it. And now the instance is created. So how do we log in inside this instance? Right now, we don't have access to the instance. We want to go inside the system that we are given and perform some operations or run some commands. Now, to do that, you can use various protocols, but there is an option in the GCP platform itself to connect directly using the SSH protocol. So we can click on the SSH button here, and this would open a new window, and it would ask if you want to initiate an SSH connection. Let's click on connect. And now it's connecting to the instance that we have created over the SSH protocol. So let's click on dismiss to this pop-up. And now we are inside the instance that we provisioned. So this is the terminal that you generally use for different projects or different needs. Now we are using that terminal on the cloud, on a system that is on the cloud. So you can run your general, Linux commands here because we installed the Debian operating system, I think. You can customize that. So as you can see over here, I have access to all the commands. I can install any software, install any libraries that I want to use. And this is basically what infrastructure as a service model is. You're given a small system with CPU, memory, operating system, and now you can install whatever you want inside this little system that you're given. So let's go over the next step. Now we have done the task one. The task one was basically creating the virtual machine instance and logging into that instance using SSH. So we have done that. We can close the SSH window now. Let's click on leave and we are out. The next task is to install Nginx web server. Now you don't have to worry about Nginx web server, what it is and how it works. You can think of that as a small server that's running inside your instance, inside your computer to serve web pages. That's the most basic way you can think of it. So I think we closed the SSH terminal. We should open it again because the next set of steps require you to be in the SSH terminal. So let's open that again. Let's click on connect. And now we are inside the system. So the first step is to gain the root access. So let's just run sudo su dash. Now we are the root user of this machine. Let's run apt get update to update the packages. Right, so now we have updated the packages and I'm clearing the console by pressing Ctrl L. You can also type in clear if you want to clear the console. And the next step is installing Nginx. So you can just copy this command and paste it here. And make sure you use Ctrl V here to paste instead of Ctrl Shift V. And now we are installing Nginx. And we are done. So mostly you would find installation of various applications and libraries working much faster in your virtual machine because obviously it's connected to a very fast network, and if it has a better configuration, it'll perform better than your system also maybe. So now we have installed Nginx, and the next step is to check if Nginx server is running on our system. So let's copy it and paste the command here. And now over here, as you can see, we have used the ps command and we have filtered the results to only those that contain Nginx in their name. And as you can see, we have some processes that are running, which are Nginx processes. So that means our Nginx server is up and running. We will go to the web page that is being served by Nginx, because as I mentioned, Nginx is a web server to serve web pages, and we will be serving a web page, and we'll check that out a little later. So let's go down. So now, as I mentioned, we'll go to the external IP address of our instance. So every instance that you create is given an internal IP and an external IP. The external IP is what you can use to view web pages or to publicly access your instance. Let's click on the external IP here, and that will open a new tab. And as you can see, we are seeing welcome to Nginx. Now this is because we have installed Nginx on our system, on our virtual machine, and that is running, and that is serving this welcome to Nginx web page here. Now let's go back to the lab page and let's see. So we have seen this welcome to Nginx output, and since we have completed all these steps, we can click on the checkbox or click on this button, check my progress here. So let's click on that, and hopefully it has found out that we have completed this task, all the tasks till here, and it shows a green checkbox over here. Nice. So now the next task is creating a new instance with gcloud. Now as a practice, I'll suggest, since you have gotten till here, welcome to Nginx, I suggest you try out how you can edit the message over here. Welcome to Nginx. There is a file, there's an HTML file located somewhere. You can probably read more about that on Google, and you try editing the file and see if updating the file also updates the output that you're shown here. So that's a small exercise that you can try out. But for now, let's go ahead with the task 3. So the task 3 is where we learn about how you can create a new instance with gcloud. Now, what is this gcloud? So before we go with task 3, let me actually close this SSH window because we don't need it. I think if it's required, we'll open it again. But yeah, let's go over what is gcloud. So if we come back to the dashboard of Google Cloud Platform, now this dashboard, as you can see, is a really nice user interface where you can point and click to create resources, to manage resources, and destroy resources. Now, when you want to automate stuff, when you want to automate the creation of resources, you can't automate it just based on a user interface. You have to define some commands. So let's go back here. I think I clicked on the wrong button. Yeah. So when you want to automate the process, you can't use a user interface and point and click like the way we are doing right now. You have to use some commands. And to allocate resources and manage resources, Google Cloud Platform also provides a utility or a package called gcloud. Now, gcloud is a package that you can install, and using the gcloud SDK, you can think of it as a command line tool that you can use to allocate, manage resources on your GCP account using terminal itself. So we'll be using this now to create a virtual machine using Google Cloud Compute. So let's go back to the dashboard, and right now I'm on the main page of the dashboard. You can go to that page by clicking on Google Cloud Platform button over here. And let's open the Cloud Shell. So let's click on the terminal icon here. And now we have opened the Cloud Shell. And as I mentioned, that the Cloud Shell is a small development environment that you can use to allocate resources, to develop small applications. It has all the libraries, popular languages already installed. So you can run various commands in this small terminal. Now, interestingly, even gcloud SDK is pre-installed. So we can directly run the gcloud commands in this Cloud Shell over here. So let's go back, and here it says so it's saying we have to run this command. Let's copy the command and paste it here, and let's also go through the command before we run it. So gcloud, as I mentioned, is the Google Cloud SDK. It's a command line tool that you can use, and compute is the type of resource or the product that we want, and within that we want to create a new instance. So this we are creating a new instance, and that instance name is gclab2, and the type of the machine which we had chosen using a menu, that also we can specify over here directly, N1 standard 2, and we can configure the region and the zone. So here the zone is US Central F. So we can run this command, and it says there's an error. So that's because we did not log in. So let's actually run this command first, gcloud.login. And now we have to click on this link and just select the account. So this is why it's important that you do these labs in an incognito window, because if you by mistake choose your normal account, then there might be a problem. So right now, since we are in an incognito window, there's only one account, and I can click on that and give the SDK the permission it wants. And let's copy this code and paste it back here. So this is the verification code that's required. Let's click enter, and now we are logged in. So let's try the command again. And now hopefully it should create the instance that we want to create. So we can go back to the compute engine VM instances, and I think the creation was successful. Let's go back to the page, and as you can see, this GCE Lab 2 is the one that we created using the gcloud CLI. So using the gcloud CLI, we can automate the creation of these resources and manage these resources more efficiently directly on the command line. We don't have to go through the entire user interface to do that. Just one command and it's quite simple. So now we have the VM running, and as you can see, we got the status as running. I think, yeah, we have the status as running. So now we can click on check my progress, and this is also done. So right now over here, as you can see, our score is 100 out of 100. So as and when you complete these tasks that you are shown, when you check the progress or when you complete the quizzes, your score will increase. And when your score is 100 out of 100, that means your lab is completed. So let's go down. Let's see. So the new instance that we created using this command, it has some default values, the default Debian 10 image for the operating system, and we obviously specified the machine type, and we can obviously use the other options that are there to specify other machine types and so on. Now to see the default default options that the gcloud CLI chooses when you create the instance, you can run the command that is mentioned over here, and let's see all the defaults. So we can just scroll down using the arrow keys, and here we can see various options that are available and the defaults that are assigned as well. So as you can see, there's an option called reservation that has a default value. So there are many such options. I think you can go through it, read this sort of the help page and read about the defaults. So that's the command. So the next thing, I think we have done this step as well. We went to the VM instances page and we saw there are two instances. The second one, the gclab2, this one was created using the gcloud CLI on the terminal. Now let's use the terminal, the gcloud CLI, to connect to this gclab2 instance using SSH. So before we used SSH button over here to connect to the instance. Now let's do that on the terminal. So let's use this command. And here, as you can see, gcloud compute. So within the compute command, there is the SSH command to log in into the instance that you want to use. So we specify the name of the instance and the zone where it's located in. Let's press enter. And so since we are using SSH, we have to press yes here because we want to create a new key, and you don't have to worry about all these. Just press enter, enter, and I think we are done. Right, so now within this terminal itself, we have used SSH to log in inside this gclab2 instance. So again, this is another small system that we have where we can install various operating systems, various libraries, similar to how we installed Nginx in the previous instance. We can do that here as well if we wanted to. So I think we have done all these steps, and once when you're done with the stuff that you wanted to do in the instance, you can use the exit command to exit out of the instance. And now we are back to the Cloud Shell terminal. So that's the introductory first lab, creating a virtual machine. There's a small test your knowledge section over here. So it's asking, through which of the following ways can you create a VM instance in Compute Engine? I think this is quite an easy question considering we went through the complete lab. So I think it's quite easy. Let's choose the correct answers. The gcloud command line tool, that's the one we used in the second task, or I think the third task. Yeah, so in the third task we used the gcloud CLI to create the instance on the terminal. And the Google Cloud Console, this one is the user interface that's available that you can use to point and click to create the instance. So we used both of them, and let's click on submit, and that's the correct answer. So I think we are done with this particular lab, and completing this lab, let's click on the end lab button because we are done, and we can click on submit. It'll ask you for your rating. You can give a rating and you can click submit or cancel. And now we are done with this lab. Now, if we go back to the previous page where all the labs were listed, let me give this page a refresh. Okay, so it's showing that I did not complete this lab. I think that's because I did not click on enroll in this quest button. So let's just click on enroll in this quest. And now, yeah, so since I've completed all the labs, it's showing the green check mark. But once you click on the enroll in the quest, I think you would start seeing the check marks once you start completing the labs. So that was the first lab on Qwicklabs, creating a virtual machine. Similarly, there are many such labs that you have to complete this program successfully. So let's go back to the slides. So we are done with the first lab on Qwicklabs. I hope you learned something from it. It's pretty interesting when you do the labs and you see stuff happening, when you actually run the commands. When you just go through a video, you just watch it and you don't really learn much. When you run the commands on your own, you get a feel for what you're doing. So that was the first lab. What's next? So this was just the beginning. We just completed one lab and there are many such labs that you have to complete by October 27th. That's the last day, I think, till when the 30 days of Google Cloud program will be running. And when you complete all the labs or the tracks, these are the swags or the exciting goodies that you can receive. So if you complete either one of the tracks, the track 1 or the track 2, you can get a t-shirt and a sticker. If you complete both the tracks, you will get sticker, t-shirt, a bag and a zipper as well. So these are the exciting goodies that you can get along with learning about the Google Cloud platform. Now everything about the event, about this program, you can find in this link over here. So if you have any FAQs, I think it's better to check this page first, and then you can reach out to me if you have any other further questions as well. Now, how to reach out? Well, you can post your questions in our 30 days of Google Cloud or 30 days of Cloud WhatsApp group or on our GDSC Discord server as well. And I'll try to answer them when possible. Thank you for attending this session. I hope you had a great time and a great learning experience. I hope you all the best. And I think still 15 days, almost 15 days are left for this program. So hope you all have a great learning month with the Google Cloud. You can connect with me on my social links over here. You can visit my website to learn more about what other stuff that I do. Thanks for attending this session and I'll talk to you later. Thank you.